What's up, nerds? So there's kind of this big, crazy, giant hole that Nintendo is digging for themselves. And I think the weird thing about it is that they've dug this hole before. Twice now, actually, they've dug this hole with the 3DS and the Wii U. And then here they are doing the exact same thing that they did the last two other times. And they, I have a pretty good feeling, are about to learn. Because it's like they never learn. Every single time, no matter how many times they make the exact same mistake, they do not learn. In terms of the price of the console, from Welcome Tour, to the games, to the chat, to Switch 2 Edition upgrades, to Switch 2 Edition physical releases, they mess up everything. They finally make a successful console, and then they start getting money, and then they have to just rip you off, and then they fail, and it's just rinse and repeat. They do this every time. And I know that some of this you guys might have already heard, but I'm just going to lay this all out for you because there might be some things that you don't even realize. It's like every aspect of this launch is to scam you out of money. So the Switch 2 itself cost $450, which plenty of people have already commented on, right? I think this is an absolutely horrible pricing. I get that there's inflation. I get that there's all of this, but it's ridiculous to say, well, the regular Switch is $300, but the new Switch has so much better hardware and performance, and it makes sense that it's going to cost more. Does it? Because the first Switch came out in 2017. That was 8 years ago. And it wasn't even top-of-the-line hardware then. Just because Nintendo still prices their butt-old console at $300 does not mean that the sequel needs to be $150 more than that. And then it just pours even more salt in the wound when you hear about the Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I mean, for anyone who owned a Wii, you know that Wii Sports was included for free with that. And that was an actual game. They included an actual game that came with your system. And then here you are spending $450, and you still would have to spend $10 for a glorified instruction manual. Like, what in the world is that? Isn't the whole point, is it supposed to teach people how to use their console? I'll just teach myself. I'm not going to spend $10 to do a welcome tour. It needs to be bundled in the console, especially if they're going to charge that much. They couldn't have just included it for free. It's ridiculous. And then you get into the balls that they have with some of these game pricing, like how Mario Kart World is going to cost $80. And I swear, if I have to hear one more person say, oh, well, if you buy the bundle, then the bundle costs $500, so then the game only costs $50. It doesn't matter, because if they start offering games at $80, this will not be the only game that they charge for $80. The next Zelda game, $80. They just had a bunch of controversy when they released Tears of the Kingdom, and it cost $70. And now they're about to do this exact same thing again. And it's a Mario Kart game, though. It's not even like a Zelda or like one of these big games. I mean, Mario Kart's fun. I'm not saying that people aren't going to play the heck out of it, but it's Mario Kart. You want people to be able to afford it. It's your system seller. And then you're charging $80 for it. And then you have Donkey Kong Bonanza that's costing $70, which is clearly establishing that instead of the previous thing that they applied at the end of the Switch 2's life cycle, where big important games were going to cost $70 and everything else was $60, it's clearly the opposite now. It's $80 for big important games, and then $70 is now their new default. And I think the thing that's even more crazy is that this whole chat feature that they're trying to promote, which is something that their competitors had back during the Xbox and the PlayStation 3, the fact that they're just now introducing this feature and then they're saying, oh, but you have to have Switch Online to have this. At least as far as that's what I understand, that it's not a separate charge, you just have to have Switch Online. But how ridiculous is that? I mean, we're now at the age where on both your Xbox and your PS5, you can use Discord directly on the device. And because that's what everyone uses. At this point, Discord is like the de facto gaming communication device. And then here's Nintendo adding a feature like 20 years too late. And there's still no Discord support. They should have just immediately jumped into Discord. But instead they're doing this, and then they're going to make it even less likely that people are going to use it because they're going to require that everyone has Switch Online. Like, all of my friends have Switches, but none of them have Switch Online at this exact moment because just because you're playing something on your Switch doesn't mean you're playing something online. So why are you going to pay for Switch Online if you're not using it? So we would have literally no reason and couldn't use this feature because it's not free. And then you have these Switch 2 edition upgrades that are just, and these are just completely ridiculous. I get that PlayStation did this, but people hated when PlayStation did it. Xbox did it for free, but the way that Nintendo is doing it is completely ridiculous because the Zelda Switch 2 edition upgrades cost $10 each. So it means that when you're migrating to the console, go ahead and, if you already own the games even, you need to set aside $20 for getting both of those two upgrades. For mostly features that nobody is ever going to use. It's like they just had to come up with the dumbest possible sharing ideas to justify a stupid price to increase the cost of the game. And I think the thing that makes the situation even worse is that, let's say you don't already own these games, right? Or let's say you own them physical and then sold your games at a later point. They're not even giving you any sort of deal or discount. The Zelda Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition cost $70 because it's the same as the original $60 price tag plus the $10 upgrade. And it doesn't even include the DLC. So it means that right now, so let's say somebody completely skipped out on the Switch, or they never played Breath of the Wild, that maybe they only played Tears of the Kingdom. That means that they legitimately are going to have to pay $90 to get all the content that was in Breath of the Wild, to get the 2 DLCs, the upgrade pack, and the game itself. And it's just crazy. I mean, the Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition cost $80 because the regular version of that on the Switch cost $70. So, of course, they had to make it cost $10 more than that. And honestly, I don't see as many people talking about this one, but one of the things that's really irritating me about the pricing is what they're doing with Mario Party Jamboree. They're adding these completely useless modes. I don't know what their obsession is with adding all of these side modes. Most people that I know that play Mario Party are playing the main modes. And instead, they're adding these essentially sort of tech demo modes to Mario Party, and then the upgrade isn't even $10. They're charging $20 for the Mario Party Jamboree upgrade pack. So that means that For me getting this console, right, if I were to go and I wanted to get these main upgrades and these games that are coming out, it would cost me $500 for the console with the Mario Kart bundle. Plus, let's say I was going to get Welcome Tour, that's $10. Then you have the Donkey Kong Bonanza for $70. You have $10 each for both of the Switch, the Zelda upgrades for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And then you have the $20 upgrade for Mario Party Jamboree, and that comes out to $620. $620 would be the total that it would cost me. And note that at the end of the day, you want to know how many games I'm actually getting out of that? 3. And one of them is a tech demo. The other one is a Mario Kart and a Donkey Kong game, and it's costing me $620. Nintendo is making a super big mistake here, because this is exactly what they did with the 3DS and the Wii U. They do this every generation. They make a first generation really popular product like the Wii or the DS. It is massively popular, and then they get cocky, and then they overcharge and underdeliver for the next console every single time. And look, people are gonna buy the console. From everything that you look, you hear, oh, well, their pre-orders are selling out and blah blah blah. Well, you don't know the numbers for how much they're actually making. But regardless, it doesn't exactly matter, because, for example, for the 3DS, it looked like it was going to sell well at first, but then once you had all of those dedicated fans stop buying it, like they already purchased their product, there was no one else lining up at the door. And that is ultimately going to be the problem with the Switch 2, because their dedicated customers are going to buy it, but not everyone who bought a Switch 1 is going to buy a Switch 2. It's just not going to happen. Not even close. I mean, almost everyone that I knew had a Switch by this point. And I can think of several people who picked up a Switch that I know good and well that at $450 are never going to pick up the Switch 2 even 5 years from now. That it's never going to happen. Unless there's some big sale that they do. So, thanks, Nintendo. Thanks for being a constant, greedy hog every single time.